It started with silence, not the kind that screams emergency, but a slow creeping absence. A missed check-in, a cold cup of coffee, and two satellite phones left behind in the glove box. When Garrett Beckwith, a seasoned climber, and his 19-year-old daughter Dela set out to conquer Wyoming's unforgiving Mount Hooker, they were prepared for anything except vanishing without a trace. For 11 years, the Wind River Range kept their secret, until two climbers stumbled on a cliffside ledge and found a forgotten camp hanging in the wind. What they saw inside a sleeping bag would unravel one of the state's greatest outdoor mysteries. Welcome to Echo Stories. Subscribe and hit the bell icon for more stories. Part 1. The Trailhead and the Silence. August 2013, Lander, Wyoming. Marianne Beckwith waited by the phone, a mug of coffee growing cold beside her. 7:00 p.m. was the time her husband Garrett had promised. He never missed a check-in, ever. Garrett was 45, an engineer, a planner, and a climber obsessed with safety. With him on this trip was his daughter Dela, a strong, independent 19-year-old about to start her sophomore year in college. This climb was their final summer adventure. Mount Hooker wasn't a casual hike. It was jagged, towering, and unforgiving. Still, Garrett had mapped it all out. They carried climbing gear, backup supplies, and two satellite phones. But when the call didn't come, Marianne waited. The next morning, still no word. By Wednesday, the quiet wasn't background noise anymore. It was a warning. Marianne called the Fremont County Sheriff's Office. She gave details, their route, the gear, and most importantly, Garrett's character. He wasn't careless. He wasn't the type to just disappear. A deputy drove to the remote Big Sandy trailhead. The truck was there, a dusty, green Ford F-150 sitting under falling aspen leaves. Inside maps, a climbing guidebook, and both satellite phones. Fully charged, untouched. That detail changed everything. The story of a routine climbing delay became a full-scale rescue mission. Within hours, Mount Hooker was swarmed by search teams, helicopters, climbers, and maps covered in red ink. But Mount Hooker is ancient, silent, indifferent. And as the storm rolled in, so did the first cold truth: the mountain had won, for now. Part 2, the search that found nothing. The search for Garrett and Dela Beckwith was one of the largest backcountry operations Wyoming had ever launched. Over 60 volunteers joined the effort, including elite mountaineers and helicopter crews with heat detection scanners. They combed every trail, rappelled every face, dropped into crevices so narrow you couldn't fit a backpack through. But there was nothing. Not a shoe, not a glove, not a rope hanging from a ledge, as if the two had been plucked out of existence. The only clue, a small cairn, just a stack of rocks left at a ridgeline, where Garrett had noted a rest spot in his climbing log. It didn't lead anywhere, it didn't say anything. Weeks passed. Snow began to fall early that season. By October, the search was called off. The Beckwith family held a memorial hike the following spring. Friends scattered wildflower seeds near the trailhead. Dela's mother, Marianne, whispered, maybe they just became part of the mountain. The case went cold. No evidence, no foul play, no weather event strong enough to bury two people permanently. Only the Wind River Range and the silence. Then came August 2024, 11 years later. Two climbers, Thomas and Rachel, were attempting a technical route up the southeast face of Mount Hooker. They were strong, experienced, and aiming to document less-used routes for a film project. Midway up, they stopped on a narrow, wind-battered ledge. And there it was, a tangle of faded tent fabric, wedged under a rock. Old rope, sun-bleached, still coiled neatly. Inside a collapsed sleeping bag, they found a jacket with a stitched name tag. Beckwith, Dela. Rachel backed away. Tomas reached for his sat phone. We found something, he said, voice shaking. I think we found them. Part 3, the camp in the clouds. The recover team arrived within 36 hours, flown in by helicopter, and then lowered by rope onto the narrow ledge 700 feet up Mount Hooker's southeast wall. The gear was undisturbed. The tent, though collapsed by time and weather, still clung to the rock with frozen guy lines. Inside, they found 2 sleeping bags, an old stove, a can of soup still unopened, a journal soaked but with some legible entries. And then further along the ledge, nestled against a wall of stone, 2 skeletal remains. Side by side, DNA tests confirmed what the journal already hinted: Garrett and Dela Beckwith had been found. But the question remained, what happened? The journal offered clues. Garrett's last entries described bad weather, then a failed anchor during a rappel descent. They had become stuck on the ledge, unable to ascend or descend. He wrote, tried climbing out twice. Wine too dangerous. We have food for 6 days. Dela is strong, keeps me from panicking. I hope someone finds this. But no one had, because the ledge was hidden, not visible from the standard route, and unreachable without elite climbing gear. They had sat trapped in the clouds for days, maybe weeks, waiting. The final note was short. Dela's handwriting. He didn't wake up. I'm so cold. I hope Mom knows we tried. That one line shattered hearts around the world. For Marianne Beckwith, it was a terrible gift closure wrapped in tragedy. She said in a press interview, they didn't get lost. They got stranded. They stayed together. And she wrote to me, that's more than I had yesterday. Part 4, the climb that held them. Mount Hooker isn't the tallest peak in Wyoming, but it's one of the most unforgiving. Its southeast face is a sheer wall of granite, brittle and exposed. One wrong step, one failed anchor. And you're caught in a place where rescue becomes nearly impossible. The ledge where Garrett and Dela made camp was barely 4 feet wide, a sliver of flat stone halfway up a climb few ever attempt. The rope tied at the corner, still looped through a carabiner, told part of the story. They had descended safely but couldn't go further. Weather logs from that week in 2013 confirmed it. A rogue storm had swept in, bringing gale-force winds and freezing nighttime temps. What haunted investigators most was how close they were to help. Just 400 feet above the ledge was a natural chute often used as an emergency route down. But Garrett and Dela likely never saw it. Their camp nestled into the shadows, couldn't be spotted from above. And when the helicopters searched during those early days, they passed directly over it. No signal, no movement. Only 2 figures silently waiting. After the remains were recovered, the climbing community responded with tributes. Veteran climbers returned to Mount Hooker to hang prayer flags bearing climbing charms and notes at the trailhead. One banner read, "You didn't fail, the mountain did." And for Marianne, she hiked to the trailhead with a bouquet of wildflowers just like she had every spring. Only this time she brought something new, a vial of Dela's ashes and Garrett's old compass. She left them at the cairn near the ridge where they had once left a marker of their journey. A journey now known, a story no longer unfinished. Part 5, frozen in time, never forgotten. Garrett and Dela Beckwith weren't reckless. They weren't thrill seekers chasing danger. They were father and daughter bonded by rope and trust, by shared silence and summit dreams. They climbed together not for adrenaline, but for time, for those rare, pure hours when nothing else existed but stone and sky. And in the end, that's where they remained. Not lost, not forgotten, but frozen in time, suspended on a narrow ledge where the world kept moving, but their story paused, until someone found the strength to look closer. The Beckwith case is now used in training for mountain rescue teams across the U.S., not because of its mystery, but because of what it teaches, that sometimes tragedy isn't in the fall but in the wait, that not all missing people are hidden far away, some are just unseen, and that even when the world moves, on the mountains, remember everything. This story isn't about a failed climb, it's about resilience, about love that holds fast in thin air, about a daughter who wrote to her mother with her final breath. If this story moved you, share it, for Garrett, for Dela, for the families who still wait at the trailhead with cold coffee and warm hope. Subscribe to Echo Stories for more powerful, true events that don't fade with time, because the truth may lie buried, but it's never lost. Sometimes it just takes 11 years. So, and a second look up a cliff.